Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man, at your Shocktober service. Yes, we're almost at Halloween. I know, some of you going like, oh Kilt-Man, cut with the Halloween stuff already. You know, it's nothing but horror, this, Halloween, that. Yeah, well, hey, it's that time of year. You know how much I love this stuff. Now, I've got a little treat for you here because once I get the hair out of my face, what's been released, musically speaking, is a fabulous CD release by Tadlow Music under the auspices of the great James Fitzpatrick, who I know has not been well for quite some time. So it's been a bit of a struggle for him and his company to get this album released. But my God, was it worth the wait. Possibly one of the greatest releases, well, in the last couple of years. Horror score-wise, certainly. And you don't just get one score, you get two. Here it is. Dracula, 1958. Hammer Films. And not only that, but also The Curse of Frankenstein, which was 1957. Hammer Films. Now, because this is so good, I'm going to do a video on each one. It's only one CD and the scores are not long. And I don't think they're actually even complete. I think there's still a few bits missing off Dracula. I don't know for definite. But these are obviously re-recordings, and it's Nick Rain and who's the City of Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. I've got loads by them as well. Why would I forget that? Because Tadlow has done quite a few things. Amongst one of my favourite album releases has been Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which is the score by Maurice Jarre. Again, undertaken by Tadlow and released through Nick Rain and James Fitzpatrick. Absolutely awesome stuff. They've done many other things too. A great reproduction of True Grit, Elmer Bernstein's score for True Grit. What else is there? The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother. Oh, again, just majestic stuff. And they really put a lot of heart, soul, commitment and incredible integrity into their productions. So, I'm going to start off with 1958's Dracula, or Horror of Dracula, as you guys in America would have known it. Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, they've already starred together, most notably the year before with The Curse of Frankenstein, with Peter Cushing playing Frankenstein and Christopher Lee playing the monster, the creature. And then of course in this, Christopher Lee, his archetypal, iconic role of Dracula. And Peter Cushing is the suave, the sophisticated, and the also heroic action man, period action man of Professor Van Helsing. Marvellous movies. They put Hammer horror on the map in the same way that Universal had made horror their own back in the 1930s with a slew of horror movies and created the horror genre in its own right. The next big wave was, and the big stir was caused by Hammer. British born, working class horror films they were. They always stuck the finger up at aristocracy and, the highfalutin higher classes. They were always the bad boys in it. And none so much more as Dracula himself, an aristocrat. And of course, in the first film that he started, that they made for Dracula, 1958's Dracula, or Horror of Dracula, Christopher Lee had lines. Yes, he had dialogue. And it was erudite, verbose, sophisticated, and he exemplified the Count. And the subsequent movies, because both Frankenstein and Dracula would then go on to spawn an absolute franchise apiece. So you'd have numerous Frankenstein movies, numerous Dracula installments. But whereas the Frankenstein movies, always, even the duds, Horror of Frankenstein, anyone, with Dave Prowse in a nappy, as the monster, not a good one. But even those had some good creative ideas, and they would take the story, the ongoing saga, in different directions. Sadly, the Dracula saga would really dovetail badly with Christopher Lee inevitably just becoming a walk-on, stand there, snarl with your feral red eyes, get your fangs bared, and just go, hiss, and that'd be it. That'd be it. And Christopher Lee himself said, look, if I'm going to be in these movies, don't give me any dialogue because I cannot spout that shit, basically. That is garbage. I'm not going to say those lines. So I'd rather be a mute. So that's how he comes across. A fair bit of hissing and growling and snarling, but that's as far as it goes. The next movie in the franchise for Dracula was Dracula Prince of Darkness. Now that is good, that has some great standout moments, but the quality dipped severely after that. Hammer would still make quality, world-class vampire movies. The great, forever unsung Vampire Circus is a real, absolute gem. Highly controversial, highly, whoa, it's edgy, it's dark, you know, there's a lot of weird, horrible things taking place in that. And it's well worth investing your time and effort in. And of course, I've gone on like before, Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter, which is just outstanding. But I am deviating from the path here, because Terence Fisher's 1958 version of Dracula is outstanding. Bray Studios, fabulous gothic production, artistic design in the movie is exemplary, effects-wise it's superb, but what made it, beyond the central performances, beyond the great retelling of a classic gothic horror story, is the awesome score by James Bernard, which is what we're celebrating right now with this epic Tadlow release of Curse of Frankenstein and Dracula's scores, as revisited by Nick Rain and James Fitzpatrick, I've already mentioned. And because James Bernard, or James Bernard, again, Americans are going to call it something different. James Bernard, who was he was a code breaker at Bletchley during the Second World War. He worked for the RAF. He was a gay man, highly educated in classical composition, the School of Musical Arts and all this. Very, very well versed in the classics. And he had a relationship with Paul Dent, who was a screenwriter of all things, Planet of the Apes and Goldfinger, you know, go figure. And then after his death, he took up with somebody else, another partner, and moved to Jamaica, where tragedy really ensued there, and his partner was actually murdered by a drug gang that broke into their house. James Bernard actually came back to Britain and tried to pursue another, you know, the composing for movies again. He did so many for Hammer. His signature tunes, his signature motifs were so singularly, you know, synonymous with Hammer movies. Bah, 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 which is just Dracula. But it's also Frankenstein. Because what his typical way of modus operandi was, the syllables of the title would form the basis of his most major themes for these scores. And when he came back eventually, before his death, he did score the original F.W. Murnau's 1922 vampire classic Nosferatu, the unofficial Dracula. Yeah, we all know the story behind that, right? And of course, you know, Nosferatu! It's still similar. You can see why he's like, oh, I've got to do it. I want to do something like, I mean, John Williams does Superman, Superman, you know, and that idiom is still certainly in evidence now. But without further preamble, let's see if we can play some bits. And let's see if YouTube allows me to play some bits, because basically I'm celebrating what is a unique, world-class release of these two scores. So first up, in this video, it's Dracula. So let's get into this now. And that's not Dracula. That's actually Curse of Frankenstein. Here we go. It's the main theme. I never drink wine. I drink whiskey and tea. Tritone. It's the devil's music. It's hated in liturgical sort of circles as being the devil's sort of theme. That gap. No one likes a gap in music. Excellent. Bass drum, snare drums, piercing strings. ominous, dark, foreboding. You can feel your fangs beginning to grow, can't you? It's designed to get your heart pumping. It's like so many Hammer scores, which James Bernard would do, would be very similar in their acute, finite, pugilistic adrenalism. Yeah, that's right, yeah. But you could turn on the sweetness and the lyricism as well. Jonathan Harker, in a nice subversion of the story. Jonathan Harker, who's John Van Eysen, I think his name was, the actor. He's going to Castle Dracula under, a pretext, but he's not what he normally is in the story, where he's going to try and sell property to Dracula back in England. He's a vampire hunter. He's actually, he's one of Van Helsing's buddies, from the vampire slaying team. So he's going out there to actually slay Dracula. Van Helsing shouldn't let this guy go. This guy's green behind the ears, for God's sake. And of course, it all goes tits up for him. Similar pattern happens. He will meet one of Dracula's brides, played by the awesomely gorgeous, what's her name? Somebody Gaunt. Victoria Gaunt, is it? Who's gorgeous, but also very devilish too. But he will get it wrong. In a classic moment, the classic moments of no! He has Dracula and, Valerie Gaunt, that's the name of the girl, the vampire bride. She's just called Vampire Woman, she doesn't have a name in it. And she's in a few Hammer movies. He's got them both in the crypt. He's lifted the lids and they're both lying there asleep. But he's got his hammer and his stake. He goes to kill her and kills her first. Turns around, Dracula's not there. He's at the top of the stairs now, and he's gonna kill, obviously. Well, put the bite on Harker. Why not kill Dracula first? Tactics, man, tactics. Let's move on. To, because there's a lot of action. Hammer brought a real sort of dynamic flow to their earlier movies, and of all the people, like Peter Cushing, who's rake thin, and you've got Valerie Gaunt, but his name should be Gaunt because his face is just caved in and cadaverous, and that's Peter Cushing at his most heroic and healthy. But this is the film where he leaps around, he uses the candlesticks to make a cross, he runs across the refectory table, leaps up the curtains and pulls the curtains down, exposing the sunlight, which then, hits the vampire, hits the count, in that fantastically, grisly conclusion, which was always cut down. And of course, big fans will know that, is it 10 years ago? 10 years ago, they uncovered the actual, the uncut moments of Christopher Lee's Dracula as he decomposes. There's a few more frames, and he found them in Japan, and they've now reinstated it. In this. It's brilliant. I mean, the effects are old. The effects guys that always worked on Hammer with Phil Leakey and Roy Ashton. They did both Dracula and Curse of Frankenstein, and many, many others. The stakings are good in this. It's bloody, And of course, these were big shocks at the time because Hammer, Universal had always been mainly their classics were black and white, and there's no gore in them. There might be a little bit of gore, but it's not much. But Hammer, the old phrase Hammer buckets of blood, and they would use what was called Kensington gore. And I think the first major splash effect of that was Christopher Lee's creature in Curse of Frankenstein getting a shotgun blast to his head, and he goes, "Do it!" like that, and blood just pours down his face. Now, you imagine at the time, back in 1957, that would have caused, and did cause, absolute uproar. Oh my God, how did they do that? Have you really shot him in the head? Dracula, apart from the stakings, it's more a case of just blood dripping down from fangs, down the chin. but also those wonderful contact lenses that Christopher Lee wears, making his eyes all bloodshot, you know, and super snarly. Isn't it great? Let's move on. Because there's some really, really good stuff here. Let's have a little look now. You get a fabulous little booklet of notes in here as well, which goes really in depth, track by track. I mean, I could sit there and read these things out, you know, minor thirds, you know, majors and all this kind of notes and octaves. I don't know what they mean. I know instruments. I can pick up on instrumentation, but I don't know I can't read music, and I don't know how music on the written page translates to people playing those instruments, what it all means. I just know how it sounds. And this sounds, I think you'll agree, absolutely amazing. Obviously with any sort of reproduction, because this is not the original score, this is the original score reinterpreted, but done as close as damn it, but variations will be made. That's inevitable, it's going to happen. And I know that some people, purists, will always pick up on little things. Oh, have they missed something out there? Have they pushed two cues together there? You know, this doesn't sound quite right. You know, the bass isn't quite as electrifying as it should be. Well, if you play the film, you know, then it will sound different from the original orchestration. It will. It's inevitable, because new choices are made, new people are playing the instruments. The recording, the mix is going to be different. It's just the way it is. But that is crystal clear, absolutely beautiful and scintillating. And there's a warmth and an organic feel to this score, which I didn't quite expect it to be as organic as it does sound. No reason why it shouldn't have done, but it really flows well. It's sinuous. There's texture, there's depth, warmth, colour. And you know, the depth is what gets me, and it feels warm. You know, it's a horror score. Should it feel cold? No, the music should feel, in this particular case, it should feel warm and enveloping. And it does. See, you're never going to forget that. Dracula! Just that simple motif. Simple yet so damn effective. So memorable that it plays in almost every other movie. I'm a movie going. Because it pretty much starts off in Frankenstein, because you do have the same sort of motif. But there you go. Let's see now. 9. Let's go on to the hugely dramatic finale. Bear with me. I'm going on to track 19, which is Bloodstained Mina / The Cellar. The Undertaker in this movie. Helps if you actually press play as well, doesn't it? Listen to how spirited this gets. James Bernard could really command fury from the orchestra, speed, urgency, and he builds and builds and builds and builds. Cymbals, big bass drum. Listen to this. They're trying to trap Dracula. They finally realise how he's been getting into the house, the Holmwood house. They put the bites on Lucy and then Mina. He's in the fucking basement. He's in the cellar. He was there the whole fucking time. And so begins the magnificent final chase to chase him back to Castle Dracula. And thus, you know, save Mina from his curse. He's put the bite on it and she's succumbing. I mentioned Miles Malleson, who plays the Undertaker in The Village. He's fantastic. very eccentric sort of old guy. A bit like Peter Cushing would always have a prop to play with. Miles Madison uses twitches and his fingers and little gasps and giggles like a prop. It's wonderful. Breathless, isn't it? He captures riding horses, carriages, speeding through Bray Woods, Blackwoods, I should say, towards Bray Studios. And then running up flights of stairs, battling with Dracula. This is Cushing's being throttled, and he fakes passing out. I think Dracula's got him, like, no. Snare drums. And it's violent, you know. You didn't get Bela Lugosi doing this sort of thing. Physically active, you know. And the old Edward Van Sloan as Abraham Van Helsing, little old man. He would notice a lack of reflection in the mirror. The curtains have come down. Dracula's like Christopher Lee's face, and the way he arches his back when the sunbeams hit him. It's like, and you actually feel sorry for him. It's just clever. You know, he's a fucking beast. Hand crumbles, the face crumbles and turns to mouldy old ash. My backing singers there, the Pumpkin Boys, and a little horny devil. You see how lovely sort of gypsy violins come in. The end of Dracula, the resurrection to normal life of Mina, the saving of her soul from the undead curse. Now, what I really want you to listen to is this final track, which is not in the movie. It's been created for this release, and it's absolutely incredible. This is Rhapsody for Lucy, and one of the album producers, Lee Phillips, is the guy behind this composition, this new composition. And what it is, it's the Dracula theme, James Bernard's Dracula main theme, but done in a soft, lyrical, almost sentimental and romantic version. Yeah, you're thinking, how can you make bum, 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 soft and romantic and tragic and whimsical like this? There's the finale again. But you listen to what comes up now. This is just beautiful. When it starts. The violins, yeah. Shivery strings. Great little booklet. Listen to this now, symbol on as well. Isn't that lovely? Cymbalum as well adds this European flavour, sort of exotic little lilt to it. An undercurrent of melancholy and mystery. I don't know who came up with this idea. Lee Phillips is the guy credited with it. And say an album producer as well for Tadlow. But I'd love to know a bit more about the genesis of this particular incarnation. It's so lovely, luscious, tragic. See, even they've gone quiet. They should all be going like that now, the heads. It's beautiful, isn't it? Shivers. It's like a almost sort of funeral-like pace, beat to it. But in a Dracula story, the funeral is never the end, is it? In the liner notes, they seem to hint that maybe this could be like some alternate universe where Dracula and Mina do finally, they are together. But of course, this Dracula is not that romantic. He's not like that. That's the Gary Oldman one, You can't breathe. You can make tracks so pulse pounding that you can't breathe. And then there's a track like this, an interpretation of his main score, which is so clutches at your heartstrings, doesn't it? That, folks, is just so gorgeous, and it's a little treat, on top of what's already a fantastic double score production, which is so well worth it. Folks, I don't think it's limited. Let me just check on this. I'm pretty certain it's not limited, but I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I would urge you to get this. If you're into your scores, you're into your horror history, the heritage of what made the horror genre what it is, and you've got to respect Hammer. You've got to respect all the artistic endeavours that went into producing those majestic movies. Even the naff ones have elements which are glorious. The photography, the makeup effects, some of the performances, the set design, and the sheer passion and verve that goes into these movies. But you owe it to yourselves, if you have any kind of fascination or adoration for these Hammer movies, to pick up this double score CD. It is just sumptuous and absolutely jaw-dropping in its level of excitement, its quality, its sound quality, its depth, its immersiveness, and it's just an experience, even away from the visuals. You're carried away, you're swept away, and that little addition at the end there, that interpretation of that thunderous main theme. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought you could have got something as gloriously beautiful as that? Folks, that was my musical tour through James Bernard. I like Bernard rather than Bernard, so I'm going to go with Bernard. James Bernard's phenomenal score to 1958's Hammer production of Dracula. And, well, folks, I hope you all enjoyed that now. And please stick around for when I go through the Curse of Frankenstein, because that's coming up next. So, folks, in the meantime and in between time, watch out for fang faces and neck biters. Eat steak, but never drink wine. And I'm going to see you all later. The Kilt-Men of the night. What sweet music they make, yeah?